Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine
जो धनवान है वो ज्यादा धनवान हो
Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. So, welcome back. Ruchi Mataji, is that you? Okay, so we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 4, entitled Sati Quits Her Body. Today we'll be reading verses 15 through 17. Yat pada padamam mahatam manor libhir nishevitam brahmarasa savartibhihi lokasya yadvarshati chasisho arthinas tasmai bhavan druhyati vishwabandhave. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. You are envious of Lord Shiva, who is the friend of all living entities within the three worlds. For the common man, he fulfills all desires, and because of their engagement in thinking of his lotus feet, he also blesses higher personalities who are seeking after Brahmananda, transcendental bliss. Purport. Ordinarily, there are two classes of men. One class who are grossly materialistic, want material prosperity, and their desires are fulfilled if they worship Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, being very quickly satisfied, satisfies the material desires of the common man very quickly. And therefore, it is seen that ordinary men are very much apt to worship him. Next, those who are disgusted or frustrated with the materialistic way of life worship Lord Shiva to attain salvation, which entails freedom from material identification. One who understands that he is not the material body, but is spirit soul, is liberated from ignorance. Lord Shiva also offers that facility. People generally practice religion for economic development to get some money. For by getting money, they can satisfy their senses. But when they are frustrated, they want spiritual Brahmananda or merging into the Supreme. These four principles of material life religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation exist, and Lord Shiva is the friend of both the ordinary man and the man who is elevated in spiritual knowledge. Thus, it was not good for Daksha to create enmity towards him. Even Vaishnavas, who are above both the ordinary and the elevated men in this world, also worship Lord Shiva as the greatest Vaishnava. Thus, he is the friend of everyone, the common man, the elevated man, and the devotees of the Lord. So no one should disrespect or create enmity towards Lord Shiva. Would anybody like to read the next verse? text 16.
I can read it. She's contacts, right?
Please read, Mataji.
Calling Mummy's mobile from Ruchi. So I don't have the book. I'll just read it from here.
Sure, go ahead.
Kim va Shiva Kwama Shivam na vidustva tandeye brahmadayastmagvakarya jata shamshane tanmale bhasman kripalya satpishache ye murthir tati tatta tata chara vashrishtam. Do you think that greater, more respectable personalities than you, such as Lord Brahma, do not know this inauspicious person who goes under the name of Lord Shiva? He associates with the demons in the crematorium. His locks of hair are scattered all over his body, and he is garlanded with human skulls and smeared with ashes from the crematorium. But in spite of all these inauspicious qualities, great personalities like Brahma honor him by accepting the flowers offered to his lotus feet and placing them with great respect on their heads. It is useless purport. It is useless to condemn a great personality like Lord Shiva, and this is being stated by his wife Sati to establish the supremacy of her husband. First, she said, "You call Lord Shiva inauspicious because he associates with demons in crematoriums, covers his body with the ashes of the dead, and garlands himself with the skulls of human beings. You have shown so many. Your thing is coming over here. Your window is coming in the way of the.
I closed it, Mataji. Try again.
No, it's still coming.
Oh. How about now?
No, it's still coming. I think Rohini Mataji is not well and somebody is trying to help her. The video is not going away.
I think you have to click on, like, on your phone. There will be different persons, so you have to click where I am. Look for my husband's name, Katiravan Krishnamurthy, and click on that.
Yeah,
On
my laptop doesn't work. Maybe you can read because it's not going away. Because
you
I'm
want me
trying.
to you want me to place the link uh, in the chat, and you can just click on that. Let me place the link on the chat.
Hare Krishna, I'm using my phone and I just have to, I roll my fingers over, like if it's the picture with like
Ruchi
the,
Mataji. Yeah, I also sent it on the chat if you want to click
okay.
on the chat, and then also follow Manasi Ganga Mataji's instructions. But she is using a computer, Manasi Ganga Mataji.
Oh, she's using a computer. I thought she was using a phone. Sorry.
Is it? Look in the chat, Mataji. I sent
Yeah,
it.
it's not. It is not clicking, and also I have like a problem with my. I get after a little bit of time I have problem speaking, so
Sure,
maybe
sure.
somebody else can read, and it's not going away also. So
Okay. If somebody else would like to read the purport.
What number are we on? Are we on 16?
16. 16.
the thing is
16.
not going away from here. The window is not closing. It's like somebody is. I think Rohini Mataji is sick or something, and somebody's uh, yeah, my computer does not work well also, and I have shortness of breath these days, so I guess.
Can you do it on your phone?
Okay, okay, now it went away. So by the time somebody
I can't hear you.
Okay, maybe somebody can read the purport. If she wants, she can read the next one.
Okay. It is useless to condemn a great personality like Lord Shiva, and this is being stated by his wife, Sati, to establish the supremacy of her husband. First, she said, am I reading in the right place?
Yes.
Okay. First, she said, you call Lord Shiva inauspicious because he associates with demons and crematoriums, covers his body with the ashes of the dead, and garlands himself with the skulls of human beings. You have shown so many defects, but you do not know that his position is always transcendental. Although he appears inauspicious, why do personalities like Brahma respect the dust of his lotus feet and place on their heads with great respect those very garlands which are condemned by you? Since Sati was a chaste woman and the wife of Lord Shiva, it was her duty to establish the elevated position of Lord Shiva, not only by sentiment, but by facts. Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity. This is the conclusion of Vedic scripture. He is neither on the level of the
only become worse. The
Hare
contrast
Krishna.
is piercing. One group filled
Yeah, please. Mataji, who are not, um,
I don't know
please
where
unmute.
that came from. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. He
Yeah,
is neither, yeah, it wasn't on my side. He is neither on the level of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor on the level of the ordinary living entities. Brahma is in almost all cases an ordinary living entity. Sometimes, when there is no ordinary living entity available, the post of Brahma is occupied by an expansion of Lord Vishnu, but generally this post is occupied by a greatly pious living entity within this universe. Thus, Lord Shiva's position is constitutionally higher than that of Lord Brahma, although Lord Shiva appeared as the son of Brahma. Here it is mentioned that even personalities like Brahma accept the so-called inauspicious flowers and the dust of the lotus feet of Lord Shiva. Great sages like Marichi, Atri, Brigu, and others among the 9 great sages who are descendants of Brahma also respect Lord Shiva in such a way because they all know that Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity. In many Puranas, it is sometimes asserted that a demigod is elevated to such a high position that he is almost on an equal level with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the conclusion that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is confirmed in every scripture. Lord Shiva is described in Brahma Samhita to be like curd or yogurt. Curd is not different from milk. Since milk is transformed into curd, in one sense, curd is also milk. Similarly, Lord Shiva is, in one sense, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in another sense, he is not, just as curd is milk, although we have to distinguish between the two. These descriptions are in the Vedic literature. Whenever we find that a demigod occupies a position apparently more elevated than that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is just to draw the devotee's attention to that particular demigod. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25 that if one wants to worship a particular demigod, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is sitting in everyone's hearts, gives one greater and greater attachment for that demigod, so that the one may be elevated to the demigod's abode. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. By worshipping demigods, one can elevate himself to the abodes of the demigods. Similarly, by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can be elevated to the spiritual kingdom. This is stated in different places in Vedic literature. Here, Lord Shiva is praised by Sati, partially due to her personal respect for Lord Shiva, since he is her husband, and partially due to his exalted position, which exceeds that of an ordinary living entity, even Lord Brahma. The position of Lord Shiva is accepted by Lord Brahma, so Daksha, Sati's father, should also recognize him. That was the point of Sati's statement. She did not actually come to her father's house to participate in the function, although before coming she pleaded with her husband that she wanted to see her sisters and her mother. That was a plea only, for actually at heart she maintained the idea that she would convince her father, Daksha, that it was useless to continue being envious of Lord Shiva. That was her main purpose. When she was unable to convince her father, she gave up the body he had given her, as will be seen in the following verses.
Thank you so much, Manasi Ganga Mataji, for reading. Would anybody like to read text 17? Ruchi Mataji, are you back and are you with us? If you would want to read.
Yeah, but I'm not feeling too well, so somebody else will read.
Sure.
Leela Mandri Mataji, this is Govardhan Leela. I can read. Please
Sure.
accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada.
Okay, this is text 17. Karnau Pidaya Nirayad Yadakalpa Ishe Dharma Vitari Ashrinibir Nribir Asyamane Chinyat Prasaya Ushatim Asatim Prabhus Chej Jivam Asun Api Tato Vis Vijet Sadharmaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sati continued, if one hears an irresponsible person blaspheme the master and controller of religion, one should block his ears and go away if unable to punish him. But if one is able to kill, then one should by force cut out the blasphemer's tongue and kill the offender. And after that, one should give up his own life. Purport. The argument offered by Sati is that a person who vilifies a great personality is the lowest of all creatures. But by the same argument, Daksha could also defend himself by saying that since he was a Prajapati, the master of many living creatures, and one of the great officers of the great universal affairs, his position was so exalted that Sati should accept his good qualities instead of vilifying him. The answer to that argument is that Sati was not vilifying, but defending. If possible, she should have cut out Daksha's tongue because he blasphemed Lord Shiva. In other words, since Lord Shiva is the protector of religion, a person who vilifies him should be killed at once. And after killing such a person, one should give up one's life. That is the process. But because Daksha happened to be the father of Sati, she decided not to kill him, but to give up her own life in order to compensate for the great sin she had committed by hearing blasphemy of Lord Shiva. The instruction set forth here in Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should not tolerate at any cost the activities of a person who vilifies or blasphemes an authority. If one is a Brahmana, he should not give up his body because by doing so, he would be responsible for killing a Brahmana. Therefore, a Brahmana should leave the place or block his ears so that he will not hear the blasphemy. If one happens to be a Kshatriya, he has the power to punish any man. Therefore, a Kshatriya should at once cut out the tongue of the vilifier and kill him. But as far as the Vaishyas and Shudras are concerned, they should immediately give up their bodies. Sati decided to give up her body because she thought herself to be among the Shudras and Vaishyas. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:32, Striyo Vaisyas Tata Shudraha. Women, laborers, and the mercantile class are on the same level. Thus, it is recommended that Vaishyas and Shudras should immediately give up their bodies upon hearing blasphemy of an exalted person like Lord Shiva. She decided, since it is recommended that Vaishyas and Shudras should immediately give up their bodies upon hearing blasphemy of an exalted person like Lord Shiva, she decided to give up her life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh my God, like this chapter is so heavy.
I
We
agree with
had-
that, Mataji.
Hadn't we read all this, that if somebody blasphemes and cut the throat and all that? We had read all this before, I remember.
Yeah, somehow it feels like that.
Yeah.
Every verse we say or every verse we read, it feels like that. But we had not read the purports, we had just read the translations.
Oh, okay.
And maybe all of us, remember the translations.
Mm-hmm.
So I read verse 15, and I will speak a little bit about verse 15, and other devotees who have read the verses or other devotees who wish to contribute can share about the remaining verses. So the theme of the chapter that we have been reading is that Sati has come to attend the sacrifice that is being performed by her father Daksha. But within his personality, there is a contradiction. And this happens many times, that a person can be on a very elevated platform uh, by many standards, but he has a particular defect. And Daksha's defect was that he was unwilling to worship and accept Lord Shiva's position. And it's very evident from Srila Prabhupada's purports, as well as the this talk of Sati to her fathers, that Lord Shiva is not an ordinary personality at all. He's such an extraordinary living entity, not living entity. He is above the living entities. He's above Lord Brahma's position, and he is only next to Lord Vishnu in his position. So he's an extraordinary um, um, uh, um, personality. Yeah, he's an extraordinary personality because we cannot call him as a living entity. He's not like one of us, for a fact. So this is Sati speaking to her father Daksha. She says, "You're envious of Lord Shiva, who is a friend of all living entities within the three worlds. For the common man, he fulfills all desires, and because of their engagement in thinking of his lotus feet, he also blesses higher personalities who are seeking after Brahman and the transcendental bliss." So Lord Shiva, I heard, but I do not have the exact place. It is said that only Lord Vishnu can award liberation, but that's not true in its entirety. There are very extraordinary personalities like Lord Shiva and Durga who can also award liberation to a living entity. So now I don't remember where I read it, like where I heard it from a authoritative source, but I do not have the reference in front of me. But this is true. Lord Shiva is so exalted, he can award liberation.
We read
Liberation
it in the
is a
last.
Brahman kind of
We read
liberation.
it in the last chapter that only Vishnu, only Vishnu Bhagwan can give salvation. Remember, we read it in the last
Yeah. But
chapter.
again, salvation is of different types. We have to remember that. So, one of the ways of liberation is that one merges into the impersonal Brahman realization. So, what they are talking about here is that Brahmananda means that impersonal Brahman realization. So, and the other type of liberation is when one associates with the Lord in the spiritual world. So there is two types of, actually five types of liberation, but the four other types are associating with the Lord in his spiritual world. Only one of those five types of liberation is merging into the Brahman effulgence. So here they're talking about merging into the Brahman effulgence. So Lord Shiva is capable of awarding devotees liberation in the sense that both kinds of liberation, because he's a great devotee of the Lord, he can award somebody um, the position of making them a devotee. So a devotee is all automatically considered liberated. Although he may be within this material world, he is considered liberated. So in that sense, he fulfills the desires of a materialistic person by fulfilling his material desires. He is capable of awarding Brahmananda. Brahmananda means impersonal liberation by merging into the effulgence. And the third type of personalities who can approach Lord Shiva is if somebody is a devotee of the Lord. Since Lord Shiva is called the greatest Vaishnava, he is also capable of awarding a devotee bhakti to Lord Vishnu. And when one gains bhakti to Lord Vishnu, it is considered that he is automatically liberated. That means he has already achieved liberation. He is on a higher platform than liberation. So, because of his exalted position, one should treat Lord Shiva to be the friend of everybody, and one should never disrespect Lord Shiva. So that is the essence of what Mother Sati is trying to tell Daksha. So, um, so Daksha is her father, and in one sense, everything is falling on deaf ears. Daksha is not able to hear what Sati is saying. But in spite of that, Sati is establishing that her husband is a very exalted personality. So that was text 15.
So text 16 is again, it's Sati, the daughter, who is imploring her father, Daksha, and she's trying to give him reasons why, you know, that he should not be, you know, disrespectful, that he should show respect rather to Lord Shiva. She says, do you think that greater, more respectable personalities than you, such as Lord Brahma, do not know this inauspicious person who goes under the name Lord Shiva? And then she goes on to say that, you know, he associates with the demons in the crematorium. His locks of hair are scattered all over his body, and he is garlanded with human skulls and smeared with ashes from the crematorium. But in spite of all these inauspicious qualities, great personalities like Brahma honor him by accepting the flowers offered to his lotus feet and placing them with great respect on their heads. So what she's saying is the physical appearance of Lord Shiva is such that he does not appear to be auspicious. He's got Hare Krishna.
इतना ही नहीं,
Hare
बॉटम में जो
Krishna.
रह रहे हैं उनका नुकसान भी हो रहा है बिजनेस में
Hare
और उनकी
Krishna.
जॉब भी जा
Can
रही है।
somebody
अगर आप
mute themselves? Thank you. Thank you. So he might be smeared in ashes. He has his hair all over the place. And he's got human skulls garlanded around his neck. So it appears that he's very inauspicious. But then she contrasts that with great personalities like Lord Brahma honor him by accepting the flowers that have been laid upon his lotus feet. So this is a lesson in don't judge a book by its cover. In other words, like you cannot, when you look at a person, you can't know who they are by just looking at their outer body, because this is just this is just matter. It's not who we are. And if you were to judge Lord Shiva by his looks, you would not know him to be such a great personality. Okay, so Sati was a chaste woman. She was the wife of Lord Shiva. And so she not only wanted to make her point and elevate, the understanding of her father, it says not just by sentiment, but by facts, that within the Vedic scriptures, Lord Shiva has got a high platform. He's on the high platform. He's not on the same level as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's not on the same level as the living entities. He's in between the two. Srila Prabhupada of Lord Shiva with that of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is in almost all cases an ordinary living entity. Seldom, but sometimes the post of Brahma is occupied by an expansion of Lord Vishnu, but most times it is an ordinary living entity with a great responsibility. But Lord Shiva's position is higher than that of Lord Brahma. Let's see, let's go on. So Srila Prabhupada is also making the analogy that Lord Shiva is connected to Lord Vishnu in the same way that milk is connected to yogurt. So milk is, let's just say, the original form, and yogurt, it's when when it goes through a transformative process, it becomes curd or it becomes yogurt. And so it says, similarly, Lord Shiva is in one sense the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in another sense, he is not, just as curd is milk, although we have to distinguish between the two. So if you were to drink milk, it's got one taste. You were to eat yogurt, it has a different taste. The origin is the same, but has a different flavor. Let's see. So uh, also, if one were to worship particular demigod, um, one can elevate oneself to that abode of that demigod. And similarly, if one were to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he would be elevated to the spiritual kingdom. Um, this is stated in. So Sati is praising Lord Shiva, her husband, due to his exalted position, which is higher than the ordinary living entities and even higher than Lord Brahma. The position of Lord Shiva is accepted by Lord Brahma. So Sati's father, Daksha, should also recognize him. Daksha's father does not have, does not have disrespect for Lord Brahma. So if Lord Brahma is respecting Lord Shiva and Daksha respects Lord Brahma, it follows that he should be recognizing that Lord Shiva is an exalted personality. The purpose for her coming to her father's house, although at the beginning she indicated that she wanted to see her sisters, her mother, she wanted to be part of the party, the celebration, but that was only said so that she could approach her father, convince him that he need not be envious of Lord Shiva. That was her main purpose. And when she was unable to convince her father, she gave up her body. We'll hear about that in the following verses. So I just, what this just made me think of is how our senses are and our understanding is not as it may seem. We're in Maya. Our senses are imperfect. And when we look upon something, if we're not looking through the eyes of Shastra, sadhus or guru, we may not have an understanding that is an understanding at all. And Daksha, and it's because of Maya and our false ego. We filter things through our understandings, or the lenses that we choose to use, and these lenses include the designations that we feel that that we're still connected to, and the desires that we have, and all the anarthas that for lifetimes we've been accumulating. And so when one looks upon another even though we may feel that their actions are not indicative of uh, a worthy personality or uh, we need to look beyond and understand that because we're not pure devotees, that we've got so many filters that are faulty within themselves, you know, and so the actions of others, the words of others, they may appear like drastically incorrect in our own eyes, but um, there's reasons why they're behaving in such ways, and so and actually, I like taking when something bothers me, like if it's my son behaving such, you know, in a certain way or whatever, I like to hopefully, hopefully I've got enough control where I step back and I try to understand maybe where he's coming from and try to understand why it affected me negatively and so there's a lesson in that, in understanding why something said or done, um, you know, had a negative effect on me. And just understanding that we're defective. We got the 4 defects, and we're not, at least myself, not anywhere near, um, you know, being in a position where I should be judging anybody because they, you know, people who are doing things that are bothers them and negative, you know, they're not in a perfect position, but neither am I. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to say. That just like Daksha could not understand the position of Lord Shiva, you know, in our own petty little lives, when we're talking with, be it a devotee or non-devotee, who acts in ways that we feel are just not acceptable, even though maybe we have a little bit more understanding because we're trying to become devotees, but still, um, you know, we're fraught with all kinds of defects, and it's better to try to understand what Krishna's trying to say to us and what kind of lesson is there in that interchange, in that um, you know, that conversation or action that just happened. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Manasi Ganga Mataji. Yeah, very beautiful reflections. It's if we can all just remember that one thing, that we are also defective, I think that itself will bring a lot of clarity into any situation. Yeah, thank you. Govardhan Leela Mataji, would you like to speak about 17?
Yes. I think the whole purpose of this was, you know, Sati was trying to say that, look, if you're going to vilify my husband, then you're the lowest of all creatures. However, Daksha, her father, could have the same argument and say, well, you know, here in my defense, look, I'm a Prajapati. I am the master, you know, I'm responsible for the propagation of the planet. I'm an officer of the universal affairs. So my position was exalted. And so so that Sati should be siding with him, accept his good qualities instead of vilifying him. However, Sati was, it says here in the Prabhupada says, no, she's not vilifying, she's defending her husband, okay? And what she should have done was to cut out her father's tongue because he blasphemed Lord Shiva, okay? And the Lord Shiva is the protector of religion. So if you kill such a person, then you should also give up your own life. I didn't know that. Maybe this is something that's done in, this was done in Vedic times. I don't know. But it says that is the process because, but, you know, Sati being very, you know, caring and for the compassionate and loving, she decides she's not going to kill her father, okay? So she wants to give up her own life because the sin, she felt she committed a sin by hearing this blasphemy of her husband. So, so we should not tolerate anybody who is vilifying or blaspheming an authority, you know, an authority or an exalted, a saintly soul or a great personality, even if they've done things that are wrong, which, you know, that happens. So if you're a Brahmana, you shouldn't give up your body because, well, if one is a Brahmana, he should not give up his body because by doing so, he would be responsible for killing a Brahmana. So the Brahmana should leave the place, block his ears, so he won't hear the blasphemy. Okay, and if you're a Kshatriyas are very powerful. They can punish any man. And so, again, a Kshatriya should cut out the tongue of the vilifier and kill him. Wow. So in terms of the Vaishyas and the Shudras, they should give up their bodies. And Sati decided to give up her body because she considered herself to be a Shudra, I believe. Yeah, she thought herself to be among Shudras and Vaishyas. And so women laborers in the mercantile class are on the same level. So she heard that blasphemy, and so of her husband, who was a very exalted person. So she decided to give up her life. You know, I thought it was just, you know, when you, from the mundane perspective, before I had read the Prabhupada's purport, I thought, oh, well, you know, she was just in a quandary between, you know, listening to this what was it, blaspheming back and forth between Daksha and Lord Shiva. I can't remember what the word is I wanted to say, but counter blaspheming and back and forth, okay? And so cursing, I think it was. Cursing and counter cursing is what they used. And I think this just shows this is a spiritual way of handling the problem. This is not like on a mundane platform where a person commits suicide. This is a little different. You can see here that, you know, it was because of the blaspheming and listening to that blaspheming that she felt she should, you know, that it was the proper thing to do to give up her life. At least that's what I'm understanding from the text. And another thing in this purport, well, that just tells us we have to be very, very careful how we, what we actually listen to, by who is saying what, about whom. You know, that today, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go kill somebody if I hear them vilifying someone else, but I should, similar to what a Brahmana would do, is either block my ears or tell the person, stop, I can't listen to this. This is something that I should not be, you know, be privy to. This is not something I want to know. I don't want to gossip here. I mean, I would personally say exactly how I feel, and not allow the blasphemy to continue. There have been times, though, I've allowed people to say things that were inappropriate, because sometimes I think I've been, how can I say, like felt defenseless at that moment, or felt like I didn't know how to respond. So I allowed something which was unacceptable. And later, you know, I would go back to that person and have a conversation with that person, say, you know, I really don't want to hear this kind of stuff anymore. It's really bad for me. It really upsets me. I mean, that's my reaction. And I think I've mentioned, you know, this one woman said, well, how come you didn't defend me in this one situation? And she was totally correct. And I said, sometimes I don't even defend myself in certain situations when I need to do it. You know, it is something, I think it's learned. And, you know, in my family, you know, in all the years of my life, I wouldn't say anything. And then later on, it backfired on me. But now I realize, no, that person who's doing that, they have to be stopped in some way. Now, today, like I said, I don't think we should go and kill somebody. This was in Vedic times. It was a totally different, I'm sure it was a different yuga even. So, yeah, the process is a little bit different today. But yet, you kill that message that they are conveying, I think. And, you know, hopefully I can live up to that myself when I hear somebody blaspheming, that I'm able to, sometimes I'm real, you know, I'm really on it, and I'll say, no, that I don't want to hear this. I can't hear this. This is really bothering me. Please stop. Now, there's a way to say it to people. And I think some people in Kali Yuga especially, they don't have anything else to do, and they just talk about everybody. Or even if they have something to do. I know in my 12-step group, if we hear somebody saying something that's inappropriate or bad about someone else, we can, when they're speaking, we can actually stop the person and say, this is triggering me. Can we need to change the subject because it's negative against somebody? And we say it right out. And, you know, we don't want to hear this in this particular venue. And so, like I said, hopefully I will be able to do that when I'm put to the test by Krishna. And I don't care who the person is, that, you know, just by listening to it, we are somehow complicit in the gossip or the criticism or the blaspheming, because we're hearing it and we're absorbing it on some level. Even if we don't think we're going to listen, it gets absorbed somehow, some of it anyway, on some level. So that's what I wanted to say about this text 17. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, all of you. But I just wanted to add a point that time, place, and circumstances, like Linda Mataji said, is very important, because we cannot go back to the old age where we can say that, this person offended such a great personality, so I am going to cut off his tongue and then I will kill myself, because that was another age when there was no, one could not resort to law and order, like call somebody and um, have them or check somebody politely. It was a different era, and some of the factors we have to always consider: time, place, and circumstances. And also, I wanted to add that most of the time, the person we are offending, we are not aware of his background, his or her background, and what we are doing. Most of the time, we are not aware of uh, how much damage can be done by words. That is something I have learned only when I have been subjected to bad, unkind words. Is like there is a saying that the tongue kills without blood, something like that. Like the tongue kills uh, without blood. So or pierces without blood, which means like it is actually true that it is not important that a person takes a gun or kills somebody. Also by words a person can be very hurt, because it kills the relationship and it kills the trust. It is not about just killing the physical body of the person. So but from where it is coming from, what past action it is coming from, all that is too complicated. So in today's age and era, I think Jesus's teachings is more valid, where he says, uh, forgive the person, and if the person hits you once, you turn the other ear, even though it's not very easy. But I think in today's age and era, it is the age to forgive, because when we forgive them, we forgive ourselves for all the mistakes we have done to others. That's what my understanding is, but others can correct me.
Thank you, Richie, for some very nice points. Um, yeah, if someone hits you, turn to the other cheek or whatever. Um, so I was just thinking how this this whole verse has to do, with um, not infecting one's own consciousness by hearing, blasphemy, be it the Lord Himself or elevated devotees or personalities. And I was just thinking how this has a connection also to preaching. People who go out and distribute books and encounter lots of people who may have a different perspective of who God is, and how you can get yourself into a conversation where people become blasphemous to the Lord Himself, and how it's important um, to not continue that conversation if you try to, if they say something and then you try to inform them correctly and they keep on, they come back again. I think to myself that it's best to move on to somebody else, because uh, their their blasphemous words can infect one's own understanding. And it's, I'm just thinking how I'm not sure, was it Lord Nityananda, oh no, Lord Chaitanya. I think someone was saying some bad words to Lord Nityananda, I believe, and Lord Chaitanya came and he attacked. And maybe Leela Manjari, am I correct am I saying this correctly? Oh,
Yes, Mataji.
okay. Okay. So yeah. And then I'm also thinking the connection also to the first the 10 offenses. One, of course, should not blaspheme the devotees who dedicated their lives propagating the holy names of the Lord, but it extends to one should not hear. I just feel that there, I mean, between what we're hearing in this verse and how that's an offense to the holy name, if one blasphemes, but if one allows someone else to blaspheme the Lord, then essentially you're permitting them to do that in your presence, and you're saying it's okay by the very fact that you're allowing them to say it, or even if you're having an argument. I mean, you're allowing them to say this and blaspheme. And so I believe that, just standing there could be offensive to the holy name, and allowing that conversation to continue. So when that happens, I feel it's best to just move on, go someplace else, and not try to convince somebody whose mind has already been made. And that's Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mataji, would anybody like to add? We are almost at 6 o'clock, but if there is any final comment that devotees wish to share. Okay, Mataji, so we will end here for today and I will again continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.